Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following report is intended strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. What you're about to hear is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony from the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as documented by Inner City Press. Before we get into today's shocking turn of events, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue bringing you these critical developments as they unfold. If you care about justice and accountability, hit that like button and help spread awareness about this landmark case now. Let's get to the bombshell. What did Justin Bieber say that shattered Sean Diddy Combs in open court? How did the same pop star who once called Diddy his mentor become the prosecution's most shocking witness? Nobody was ready for what happened when Justin Bieber stepped into that Manhattan federal courtroom. The tension had been building from days of damaging testimony, but when those doors opened and Bieber entered, a wave of gasps rolled across the room. Even veteran court reporters froze mid-sentence. No warning, no leaks, just Bieber walking straight to the witness stand as Diddy's face shifted from confusion to disbelief. Until then, Diddy had kept his composure. He'd endured Cassie's detailed testimony, withstood multiple statements from other victims, and stayed focused on his legal defense. But everything changed the moment Bieber raised his hand and swore to tell the truth. In that instant, it was like Diddy saw the walls close in. Maybe it hit him that his carefully built empire of silence was falling apart from the inside. Maybe it was the realization that the young artist he once controlled was about to reveal the truth they'd both tried to bury. Because when Justin spoke, it wasn't as a pop icon, it was as a survivor, a first-hand witness to years of manipulation who had finally reached the point where staying silent was no longer an option. From the moment he started detailing his connection with Diddy, a relationship that began when he was only 15 years old, it was clear this wasn't about celebrity drama. This was about abuse masked as mentorship, about a system designed to exploit, not protect. His account, filled with specific dates, places, and even witnesses, unveiled a pattern of predatory behavior that went well beyond what prosecutors had charged so far. It wasn't just about supporting Cassie's claims, it was about pulling the curtain back on something far deeper and more dangerous. Diddy wasn't just a mentor who lost his way. He was being painted as a gatekeeper of exploitation, targeting the most vulnerable newcomers in the industry, young artists chasing dreams while trapped in silence. As Bieber continued, speaking with a quiet but unwavering voice, the courtroom knew they were watching a historic moment. The effect on Diddy was instant. The once confident mogul crumbled before everyone's eyes. His hands began to tremble. Tears poured down his face. His breathing became erratic. Court medical staff moved in, unsure if they were witnessing a physical emergency or a complete psychological breakdown. But it wasn't physical. This was a man watching his darkest secrets being dragged into the light by someone he once believed he controlled forever. What happened next will go down as one of the most emotional scenes in legal history. The prosecution didn't just deliver a witness, they unlocked a new dimension of the case. The glossy image of the mentor, the docuseries hero, gone, replaced by something far more disturbing. This was the full moment where Justin Bieber joined Cassie, standing up to the man behind their trauma. And that stand sent Diddy into a complete emotional collapse in court. That morning, day 5 of the trial began with a strange energy. Prosecutors moved with quiet intensity. Diddy's defense team looked visibly rattled. It was clear something big was coming, but no one could have predicted this. Inside courtroom 3, the air was heavy with suspense. Cassie Ventura sat in the front row, surrounded by her legal team, composed but clearly alert. Her eyes often shifted toward the prosecutors, who were whispering among themselves with a sense of urgency. Meanwhile, the defense table was in chaos, hushed but frantic debates, nervous glances, and Diddy staring into his paperwork with forced calm. Everyone in that room could feel it. Something major was about to happen. And then it did. As Judge Andrew Carter stepped into the courtroom and called it to order, the packed gallery immediately fell silent. Reporters and attendees leaned in, instinctively sensing that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Judge Carter's tone was more serious than usual as he addressed both legal teams, reminding them to maintain order regardless of what testimony may arise. Then came the moment that shifted the entire trial. The prosecution may call its next witness, the judge said, clearly aware of what was coming. The lead prosecutor stood slowly, allowing the moment to hang heavy. "Your Honor," the people called Justin Drew Bieber to the stand. The reaction was instant and explosive. Gasps surged through the gallery. Reporters scrambled to capture the moment. Diddy's head snapped up from his notes, his expression flipping from confusion to realization to pure panic. His lead attorney bolted upright. "Objection, Your Honor. We received no notice of this. Witness, this is a complete ambush." "Your objection is noted and overruled," Judge Carter said sternly. Double quotes, Mr. Bieber was added to the witness list through proper legal channels. "Proceed." A side door creaked open, and in walked Justin. Bieber gone was the confident pop idol image. Instead, stood a man in a simple dark suit, his face reflecting the weight of what he was about to do. He walked toward the stand, never once glancing at the defense table. But Diddy couldn't take his eyes off him. His distress was palpable. As Justin raised his right hand to be sworn in, a choked sound escaped from Diddy. His attorneys leaned in to steady him, but the unraveling had already begun. The man once feared for his power was now paralyzed by the threat of his own truth being laid bare. "Please state your name for the record," the clerk asked. "Justin Drew Bieber," he replied clearly, his voice cutting through the courtroom silence. The prosecutor approached with calm precision. "Mr. Bieber, thank you for being here. Can you tell the court how you know the defendant?" Justin exhaled slowly, his hands tight in his lap. "I met Sean Combs when I was 15. He offered to be a mentor to help me navigate the music industry." "And did that relationship develop like a typical mentor-protege dynamic?" the prosecutor asked. "No," Justin replied firmly. "It was never what it looked like to the public." From the defense table came the sound of paper crumpling. Diddy's fists clenched, crushing the documents in his hands. His breathing had become shallow and loud, drawing nervous glances from nearby court officers. "Mr. Bieber," the prosecutor continued gently, "I know this is difficult, but can you explain what you mean by that?" Justin looked squarely at the prosecutor, refusing to glance at the defense table. "What the public saw was a performance," he said. "The truth was a pattern of grooming that began the moment I entered his world." That single word, grooming, dropped like a bomb. Several jurors shifted in their seats. Members of the press looked at each other with stunned expressions. And Diddy, his mask cracked entirely. Tears rolled out his cheeks. He shook his head, repeatedly, mouthing no over and over again. "Objection," his attorney practically yelled. "These are unfounded and inflammatory allegations. I have evidence," Justin said calmly, cutting through the chaos. "Photos, videos, text, messages. Everything I'm going to describe can be proven." Judge Carter raised his hand for silence. "The witness may proceed." Objection overruled, as Justin prepared to reveal more. The change in Diddy was undeniable. The mogul who once silenced others through power and fear was now visibly falling apart. His designer suit was wrinkled from nervous fidgeting, his face streaked with tears, and his body trembled from what could only be described as genuine panic. "Your Honor," one of Diddy's attorneys stood again. "We request a brief recess. Our client appears to be experiencing a medical issue." "Sit down," Judge Carter ordered. "Unless Mr. Combs requires emergency attention, we are moving forward." The room held its breath. The stage was set for a testimony that would not only bolster Cassie's claims but reveal something far more sinister. Bieber's unexpected appearance had already done what days of testimony could not: trigger the total psychological collapse of Sean Combs, and the most damning details hadn't even been shared yet. "Mr. Bieber," the prosecutor resumed, gently, "can you take us back to the beginning? How did your connection with Mr. Combs begin?" Justin shifted in his chair. His eyes clouded as he thought back. "I was 15, he said. "I was doing promotion in New York. My manager at the time thought it would help to meet some major players in the industry. That's when Diddy reached out, said he wanted to give me advice about the business. And that first meeting, at first it felt normal," Justin said. "We met at his office at Bad Boy Records. He told stories about music, gave what seemed like honest advice. It was funny, charming, made me feel like I belonged, even though I was just a kid from Canada." He paused, visibly collecting himself, "But looking back, I can see now that the grooming started immediately. He kept saying how young I was, how I needed protection, how only he could really keep me safe in this industry." A low moan came from the defense table. Diddy had buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking silently. His legal team huddled tightly around him, but the damage was already irreversible. "He invited me to stay at his house," Justin continued. "Said it would be like music boot camp, that he'd show me the parts of the industry no one else would. My team thought it was a huge opportunity. I was just excited that someone like Sean Combs wanted to mentor me." "And what happened during those visits?" the prosecutor asked. Justin's jaw tightened, and then he began to answer. "In the beginning, things seemed standard. We worked on music, he introduced me to other artists, and we had conversations about the business. But there were always older people around, and there was always alcohol, even though I was clearly underage when I questioned it. He'd just laugh and say, 'You gotta learn how to handle yourself in grown-up situations.'" "When did it shift?" "Within weeks he started urging me to stay overnight more frequently. He'd say my hotel was too far or claim we had early morning sessions. He gave me a room at his house, but often showed up late at night, wanting to keep talking." Justin's voice dropped. "He would sit on the edge of my bed, put his arm around me. He told me I was different, special, said I had something that needed to be protected, guided. It was made to seem fatherly, but the way he touched my shoulder, or placed his hand on my knee, the way he looked at me, it felt off, but I didn't have the words back then to explain why." The prosecutor gave a soft nod. "Did you tell anyone how uncomfortable you felt?" "I tried," Justin replied. "I told my manager I didn't want to sleep over anymore, but by that point, Diddy had already gotten to him. Suddenly, my manager was telling me how lucky I was, how this relationship could define my whole career. Justin looked down. There were unspoken threats to stories of artists who walked away from Diddy and never worked again. Can you share any specific events that made you uneasy? Justin took a shaky breath. There was a night, 2 months in, he hosted a party at his house. It was full of industry insiders, models, and other artists. I was the youngest person there, by far. He kept calling me his special project and had everyone raise glasses to my innocence. He paused, clearly disturbed by the memory. As the party went on, it got out of hand. Drugs were out in the open. People were doing things if it shouldn't be witnessing. When I tried to go to my room, Diddy blocked the hallway. He said I needed to see how things really worked, that this was part of my education. What happened then? He made me sit beside him on the couch as everything happened around us. He kept one hand on the back of my neck like he was making sure I stayed there, whispering things like, "This is the real industry. This is success." Some jurors shifted uncomfortably in the gallery. Cassie Ventura wiped away tears, clearly seeing her own story in Justin's words. That night, after everyone left, Justin continued in a barely audible voice. He came to my room, sat on my bed, told me I had passed a test, that most young artists couldn't handle seeing what I saw, but I had, and that made me special. Did he explain what that meant? Not then, but after that night, the boundaries kept shifting. He started having me attend private business meetings where illegal things were openly discussed. He took me to clubs even though I was underage. Nobody questioned it. I was with him. He gave me drinks, told me I needed to build my tolerance. Justin lifted his head, locking eyes with the prosecutor. He was slowly breaking me down, desensitizing me, making things that were obviously wrong seem normal. He made it feel like this was just what every successful artist went through. And because it was Sean Combs, because he was a legend, because he discovered Biggie, I believed him. From the defense table, a low choking sound was heard. Diddy was now rocking in place, his face buried in his hands. His lawyers looked helpless. One rose to object but then sat down again, defeated. "Mr. Bieber," the prosecutor said softly, "was there a particular moment that made you realize this wasn't mentorship at all?" Justin nodded. About 6 months in, he'd been drinking a lot one night, started talking about Usher, about other young artists he'd mentored. The way he spoke, the details he gave. I realized he'd done this many times before. I wasn't unique. I was just the next one. "What did you do after that realization?" "At first, nothing. I was terrified." He made it clear he had my career in his hands. One phone call could erase everything. So I started backing away slowly, making excuses not to visit. I threw myself into touring, anything to stay out of New York or LA. "How did he respond to your distance?" "He didn't take it well. The calls became constant. The texts started sounding angry. He'd randomly show up at my concerts. He began telling people I was ungrateful, that I'd betrayed him. The pressure was enormous. People I respected were warning me I was making a mistake by distancing myself from him. Justin's story was beginning to echo Cassie's with frightening detail the same cycles of grooming, control, and fear, only this time with a young male artist. But the most harrowing part was still ahead. "Mr. Bieber," the prosecutor's tone turned solemn, "I need to ask you about a specific event. What happened in Miami in 2010? Justin's face tensed, but his voice stayed even. "Diddy flew me out for what he called a recording session. I was 16 then, but when I arrived, there were no studios, no gear, just a party already in full swing, all adults. I was the only minor. What happened at the party? He brought me into a so-called VIP section, really just a private corner in his own house. Kept handing me drinks, told me I needed to relax, that I was acting like a child, that I was embarrassing him in front of powerful people." Justin paused to take a sip of water. After a few drinks, things got blurry. I don't know what else was in them, but I remember him leading me to a bedroom. I remember others being there. I remember him saying, "He's ready for initiation." The courtroom fell dead silent, except for Diddy's sobs. Jurors looked stunned. The judge leaned in, visibly disturbed. "Mr. Bieber," the judge said carefully, "I know this. It is hard, but can you be more specific?" Justin's voice cracked as he spoke. "I was interfered with by more than one person. While Diddy gave instructions and watched, I was too out of it to fight back. And when I tried, he'd get close to my face and whisper, 'I own your career. One call and it's over.' Do you remember anything else from that night?" Flashes, someone taking pictures, Diddy laughing, saying, "He's part of the family now." The next morning I woke up in that same bed, alone. I had no clear memory of how the night ended, but the bruises were there, the shame, the confusion. Suddenly a loud crash echoed across the courtroom. Diddy had tried to stand, knocking over his chair in the process. "It wasn't like that," he yelled, his voice hoarse and frantic. "Justin, tell them it wasn't like that. You wanted to be there. You wanted to learn." "Mr. Combs, control yourself," the judge snapped. But Diddy had lost control. "You ungrateful little..." He lunged at the witness stand, needing to be restrained by court officers immediately. As they held him back, he kept yelling, "I made you, I protected you, and this is how you repay me, with lies, with betrayal. Get him out of here," the judge ordered. The judge ordered. As Diddy was dragged toward the holding cell, he twisted his head back to look at Justin one last time. You know what you did. You know you wanted it. You can't change the past now. I have the pictures. I have the videos. Everyone's gonna know what you really are. The heavy door slammed shut behind him. Silence gripped the courtroom. Justin sat frozen in the witness chair, tears silently pouring down his face. The prosecutor approached carefully. Mr. Bieber, do you need a break? Justin wiped his tears, then straightened. No, he said with resolve. I need to finish this. His outburst proves everything I've said. He still thinks he owns me. Still thinks he can shape the story, but he doesn't. Not anymore. You said earlier that he mentioned pictures and videos. Can you explain that? Justin nodded, his expression darkening. That's how he controlled people. He'd record things sometimes in the open, sometimes without you knowing. Then he'd show you just enough to let you know he had proof. He never outright blackmailed anyone. He was too careful for that. But the message was always there. Did he ever show you anything directly? Yes, about a year after what happened. In Miami, I was trying to distance myself from him completely. He asked to meet, said he wanted to clear the air. Justin took a breath. When we sat down, he pulled out his phone and showed me a video from that night. I only watched a few seconds before I got sick. He said he kept it to protect me, to make sure no one else could hurt me the way he could. What was your immediate reaction? I threw up. Right there, in the middle of the restaurant. Then I ran. I went back to Canada and didn't return to the US for 3 months. Told everyone I needed rest, but truthfully, I was falling apart. That's when I really started spiraling with substances, mental health, trying to numb the guilt, the shame, the fear. The prosecutor pulled out a set of documents. Mr. Bieber, I'm showing you what's been labeled as Exhibits 127 through 134. Can you confirm what these are? On the monitors, a series of text messages appeared spanning years. The courtroom leaned forward. You can't hide forever. JB, your silence is golden. Keep it that way. Remember Miami, proud of the new album. Stay smart. Justin looked at them, then confirmed. These were all from him. Different phone numbers every time. But the tone, the timing, I always knew it was him. They were reminders that that was still there, that he still had leverage. Did you ever think about going to the police? Justin hesitated. Many times, but who would have believed me? I was the troubled pop star. He was Sean Combs, the untouchable mogul, and I knew what he had on me. I was terrified those videos would surface, terrified of trying to explain that to the world. So what changed? Why are you here now? Justin turned his head to face Cassie, seated in the gallery. When Cassie filed her case, something shifted inside me. I realized I wasn't alone, that my silence, my fear was giving him more power. Watching her speak out gave me the courage to finally do the same. He turned back to the prosecutor. But what really pushed me, was finding out he had started grooming new artists, teenage boys, just like I was. Kids who looked up to him the way I once did. I couldn't stay quiet and let that happen again. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. The truth was undeniable now. Diddy's behavior wasn't isolated. It went far beyond romantic relationships. This was a pattern targeting the vulnerable, no matter their gender. Mr. Bieber, the prosecutor, continued, pressing gently. Earlier you said he had a system. Can you explain what you meant? Justin took a breath, finding strength in the moment, the strength that comes with finally telling your truth over time. I began to notice the pattern. He had a type, young, ambitious, usually coming from tough backgrounds or without strong family support. He could spot vulnerability from a mile away, and he'd exploit it. Can you give the court a specific example? The prosecutor asked. There was a young rapper out of Chicago. Justin began. He signed to Bad Boy around 2011. I watched Diddy use the exact same method on him, the mentorship pitch, the subtle boundary pushing, the forced presence at adult parties, and then the documentation. Always the documentation. Justin's tone grew colder. In just a few months, that kid went from wide-eyed and full of hope to empty. He was compliant. I tried to warn him once, pulled him aside at an event and told him to be careful. Justin paused. The next day, Diddy called me himself, said he was disappointed I was spreading bad energy, that maybe I needed a reminder about loyalty. That night, a post appeared on Instagram from a throwaway account. It was a cropped photo, but unmistakably from the Miami incident. It was gone in under an hour. But the message, clear as day. How did this kind of control impact your career? The prosecutor asked. Justin answered flatly. Every major decision had to go through him, even when he wasn't officially part of my team. If I wanted to collaborate with someone, he needed to approve it. If I started dating someone, he had to be okay with it. He'd claim it was for my protection or that he was guiding me, but it was never about mentorship. It was all control. Suddenly, from the holding cell area, faint shouting could be heard. Diddy's rage was bleeding through the thick doors. The judge took note, likely alerting security. There was a financial side too, Justin continued. He'd force himself onto projects, taking producer credits and percentage points he didn't earn. If you said no, Things would mysteriously fall apart. Studios would cancel sessions. Collaborations would collapse. Radio play would dry up. He never had to threaten you directly. The industry did it for him. Can you explain how that operated? He had people everywhere, Justin said. Execs who owed him. Artists he controlled. Media folks who depended on him for event access. Even his security guys were reporting back to him. It was like a spiderweb, and once you were caught in it, every move you made just got you more tangled. Justin then pulled out his phone. May I show the court something? He asked. The judge nodded. I've got 43 blocked numbers in my phone. All of them have been used by Diddy or his people over the years. Even now, with him in custody, I still get calls from unknown numbers. The network is alive and well. What? That happened when you tried to push back. Justin didn't hesitate. Retaliation was fast and calculated. One time in 2013, I refused to go to one of his parties. Next thing I know, tabloids were running stories about my so-called meltdowns, with quotes from anonymous insiders. I dated someone he didn't like. Suddenly, private photos of us were leaked. I worked with a producer he didn't approve of. Suddenly my album hit unexpected distribution issues. The prosecutor then submitted banking records and communication logs, verifying Justin's timeline. The picture was clear. Diddy's influence stretched far beyond personal manipulation. It was about total control, emotional, professional, and financial. Double quotes. Mr. Bieber, how did you finally break free? Justin exhaled. It took years of therapy. Years of rebuilding everything, my team, my structure, my confidence. I had to find people who weren't connected to him, and I had to accept that certain doors would stay shut forever because I refused to keep playing by his rules. But the hardest part wasn't losing opportunities. It was admitting the truth. That none of this was my fault. That I was a child and he was a powerful adult who used me. Did you ever confront him directly? Yes, once. In 2018, I was in a better place, mentally. We met at a public restaurant. I made sure it was public. Justin paused, his eyes narrowing at the memory. I told him to his face that I knew what he did, that it was wrong. The courtroom fell silent. His response, Justin's voice cracked. He smiled and said, wrong is a matter of perspective. You're rich, aren't you? You're famous, right? Everything I did made you who you are. You should be grateful. That's when I realized just how deep his delusion ran. He truly believes that controlling and abusing young artists is a form of mentorship. In his mind, the trauma he causes is part of building success. But he's not just a predator. He's a predator who sees himself as a savior. How many victims do you personally know about? At least a dozen that I saw with my own eyes being manipulated or controlled. But based on the conversations I've had since stepping forward, the actual number could be in the hundreds. He's been doing this for decades, protected by an industry that puts profit and power above the safety of young talent. The pattern was undeniable. Diddy's influence wasn't limited to personal relationships. It was a deeply embedded system of exploitation within the entertainment business. Aspiring artists were targeted, groomed, manipulated, and trapped using blackmail, financial control, and industry pressure. Justin Bieber's testimony wasn't just backing up Cassie's, it was revealing an entire ecosystem of abuse. Mr. Bieber, the prosecutor said softly, aware of the emotional weight of the moment. What finally led you to come forward? Justin exhaled deeply, his eyes glimmering with tears that hadn't yet fallen. It was a mix of things, he said. Cassie's bravery played a huge role. Watching her speak out and refuse to stay silent made me realize that by staying quiet, I was still letting him control me. He paused to collect himself, but the final push came just 3 weeks ago. A parent reached out to me. Their son, a 16-year-old singer, had been invited to spend a week at Diddy's house for so-called career development. They wanted my honest opinion, and I just couldn't lie. I couldn't let another kid walk into what I went through, so I told them everything. I warned them about the grooming, the parties, the manipulation. They were shocked, but thankful. What happened after that call? The prosecutor asked. Within a day, I started receiving threats. Not from Diddy himself, he was already in custody, but from people around him. They knew exactly what I'd said. One message even included a screenshot from the Miami video. Justin's voice sharpened. That's when I realized, even in custody, his network was still active, still intimidating people, still scouting new victims. My silence wasn't just protecting me, it was protecting him and allowing more harm to happen. Did you reach out to the authorities? My first call was to Cassie. I needed to know if I could support her case. She was amazing. She connected me to the prosecution. Once I told them everything, they rushed to bring me in as a witness. Were you scared about testifying? Terrified, Justin admitted. I knew he could leak whatever he had on me. I knew I'd be dragged online, and I knew I'd have to relive every moment I'd worked so hard to bury. But I kept thinking of that 16-year-old boy and all the others still out there. My comfort wasn't more important than their safety. From the holding area, another outburst echoed. The judge scribbled another note, his face growing more tense. There's something else, Justin added quietly. Last year, a young artist died by suicide. He was 18, had just left Bad Boy Records. He was dealing with addiction, mental health issues. His family never understood why he went downhill so fast. But I did. I saw the pattern drop by Diddy, shut out by the industry, left in isolation and shame. And I didn't say anything. I should have told him he wasn't alone. That what happened wasn't his fault, but I was still too scared, too ashamed. Tears finally slid down Justin's face. His death still haunts me, and I won't let it happen again. Mr. Bieber, the prosecutor said softly, is there anything you'd like to say to other victims watching this? Justin looked into the camera, his voice firm but gentle. You are not alone. None of this was your fault. The shame you're feeling, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to him. I know how terrifying it is to speak out, especially when someone like him has material he could use to humiliate you. But that fear only controls us if we let it. We were kids, we were vulnerable, we were taken advantage of. That's not our burden to carry. Justin's voice grew steadier as he continued. To the parents, to the guardians, protect your children. The music industry has its beauty, but predators like Sean Combs have turned parts of it into a nightmare. Don't be blinded by glitz, by fame, or by promises of stardom. No dream is worth the trauma this man inflicts. Then, Justin turned toward the holding cell. I know you're listening. You didn't break me. You tried to own me, to mold me into just another one of your victims, but you failed. We all survived. And now, finally, you're going to face the consequences. You could feel the tension in the courtroom shift. Some jurors wiped their eyes. Cassie sobbed quietly from the gallery. Even some of the most seasoned reporters sat in stunned silence. Mr. Bieber, the prosecutor said softly, anything else you'd like to add? Just this. Healing is real. I'm living proof. It takes work, therapy, and support, but it's possible to reclaim your life. He wants us to believe we're nothing without him, but that's a lie. We are everything, in spite of him. The moment was undeniable. Justin, once a scared teen under Diddy's influence, had become the voice of reckoning. His testimony didn't just back Cassie's, it cracked wide open the full scope of what Diddy's empire really was. Your Honor, the prosecutor addressed. Judge Carter, we request the defendant be returned to the courtroom. Mr. Bieber would like to say something directly. The judge nodded. Bring in the defendant. He is to remain restrained. One more outburst, and he'll be removed permanently. When Diddy was brought back in, the change in him was stark. His designer suit was wrinkled and stained with tears. His hands were cuffed and chained at the waist. His face puffy, red, desperate. The arrogance was gone. All that remained was a shattered man that as he was seated, his eyes met Justin's. For a long moment, the courtroom froze. Mr. Bieber, the judge said, you may speak. Justin stood slowly, gripping the stand. His voice was firm. Look at me. Diddy looked up, eyes filled with fury and panic. I was 15, a kid. You saw my gift, my uncertainty, my hope, and you preyed on all of it. You didn't mentor me. You manipulated me. You didn't protect me. You abused me. You wanted it. Diddy suddenly screamed, voice hoarse. You liked the parties, the lifestyle, the attention. Don't pretend now. No, Justin shot back. I wanted guidance. I wanted to understand the industry. Instead, you gave me drugs. You took my innocence. You didn't lift me up. You pulled me down. Diddy jerked forward, but the restraints held. You're nothing without me. I made you. Justin didn't flinch. You didn't make me. You victimized me. You locked me in rooms. You made me afraid to speak my truth for 10 years. That's what you did. The courtroom was silent. Then Diddy whispered with venom, they'll see the videos, the truth. Everyone will see what you really are. Justin stared him down. I was a child, Sean, a child you drugged and violated. Any footage you have is evidence of your crimes, not mine. I'm not afraid anymore. You're the one who should be ashamed. Your Honor, Diddy's lawyer jumped up. This is inappropriate. Sit down, Judge Carter ordered. Your client opened the door. Mr. Bieber has the right to respond, Justin continued, his voice growing steadier with each word. You want to know who I am? Sean, I'm a survivor, a husband, a father, an artist who reclaimed his voice, no thanks to you. His voice trembled as the weight of his emotions surfaced. He began to sob, his entire body shaking. Through broken speech and gasps, Diddy tried to justify himself. You don't get it. I loved you all. I was teaching you. I was preparing you for reality. This is how stars are made. You came to me for this. Justin looked at him with a sorrowful, the expression that bordered on pity. No, Sean, he said softly. This is how predators think. You've convinced yourself that what you did was love, that grooming was mentorship, that control was care. But we see the truth now. All of us see what you really are. The prosecutor stepped forward. Mr. Bieber, anything else you'd like to say? Justin turned toward the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this hasn't been easy to hear. I know the image of Diddy, the mogul, doesn't match what I've described, but I ask you to believe, not just me, but all of us, who've come forward. He paused, gathering his breath. Behind every hit record he's ever made, there's someone he manipulated. Behind every award, there's someone he silenced. Behind the parties and glitz, there's a predator who built his empire on suffering. He looked at them, raw and honest. Please don't let wealth, fame, or legacy blind you to the truth. Don't let another generation of artists fall victim because we failed to speak up. We've been silent too long. We deserve justice. From the defense table came one final outburst. I'm Sean Combs. Puff Daddy, I built an empire. I changed culture. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself. Justin replied, calm and cold. With every life you ruined, every person you hurt, you built that empire on pain, and now it's falling. The judge ordered calm as Diddy collapsed, requiring medical assistance. Paramedics rushed in. Meanwhile, Justin quietly stepped down from the witness stand. He didn't glance at Diddy. Instead, he walked directly to Cassie in the gallery. They embraced, two survivors finally seen, finally heard. The showdown was over. The truth had won. As the courtroom emptied, even seasoned reporters looked shaken. No cameras were allowed inside, but courtroom sketches and recaps went viral within minutes. Social media lit up. Justin breaks silence. #believe survivors. #Diddy exposed soon. Artists began speaking out. A former R&B singer posted a video alleging she'd been drugged by Diddy at a 2008 party. A producer admitted he was forced into free-offs or risked being blackballed. A model posted bruises from a 2015 encounter. The fallout was immediate. Universal suspended all ties with Bad Boy. Streaming platforms pulled Diddy from playlists. Brands ditched Sean John within hours. But the most serious development came when the FBI announced the case had escalated. Justin's testimony opened the door to potential RICO charges, including trafficking of minors across state lines. Legal analysts said Diddy could now face life in prison. Yet, the deeper impact rippled through survivors. Justin's wife, Haley, shared, "I've never been more proud. Today, you didn't just find justice, you gave others hope." Lady Gaga tweeted, "To every survivor who saw what Justin did today, your pain matters, your healing matters, you matter." More anonymous accounts emerged. A young man from Detroit posted, "I was scouted by Diddy in 2019. Justin saved my life. Today I called the FBI. Today I'm free." Industry insiders began naming others, executives, artists, enablers. The walls of silence were collapsing. Mental health hotlines reported surges in calls. Therapy bookings skyrocketed. Survivors who had stayed quiet for years began stepping forward. Diddy's legal team held a chaotic press conference, offering no denial, only that he was receiving medical attention. Prosecutors, meanwhile, said their case was now stronger than ever. Diddy's outbursts, threats, and public breakdown only confirmed the patterns of abuse. As night fell, a candlelight vigil formed outside the courthouse. Hundreds stood with signs, "We believe survivors, justice for all victims." Cassie and Justin, watching from a secure location, wept as the crowd grew. A day that began with one witness had become a cultural reckoning. The most untouchable man in music had been taken down not by fame or lawsuits, but by the voices of those he tried to silence. If you believe this story matters, if you stand with Justin and Cassie, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, like this video to help spread the truth, comment below to support survivors. Change happens when silence ends. Today, Justin Bieber and Cassie Ventura ended the silence. The question is, who speaks next? And more importantly, are we ready to hear them?